So now that the Crumbley mom has been convicted, shitty parents everywhere are freaking out. Like, what does that mean? Are we implicated in this? Today, we're going to talk about the Crumb Bums. We're going to talk about the trial and the ruling, Jennifer Crumbley, Oxford's mom. So obviously this is a very serious topic. I'm trying to shake this table. This is a very serious topic. I worked in that community. I wasn't affected in any other sort of way, right? Very serious topic. But so is what I'm going to talk about. And I don't know how to do it. As I was watching the Jennifer Crumbley trial, I was sort of taken aback at what qualified as negligent abuse, which ultimately ended up into like negligent homicide. Let's just go there and stick with me. Please leave in the comments. I'll put my email. I'll put an email up in here too. Why not? Right? And we can get further on with this. We can take calls and you guys can email in stuff or whatever. And we can talk about this again. But what the fuck? Her house was dirty. They showed pictures of the house. I guess I should pull it up. I didn't watch that part where they were tearing apart her house and saying it was skanky. Obviously, all of our houses are messy, right? Dude had 13 cavities. He had braces. So it's like, there's kind of like, I gotta sort of tell you where I'm coming from on this. You're a bad mom if your kid has braces, like you didn't fucking have him with straight teeth. Just off rip, he didn't come with straight teeth. Like, mom. What I'm saying is, the kid has braces. So somebody cared about him to finance that, we'll say. Nobody's just paying out of pocket or whatever, right? They cared enough to finance that and then to take him there. And then the level of care that takes, like, what is it, every 6 weeks or something? You have to, like, go get them adjusted. You have to get them tightened up. 12 weeks, I don't know what it takes, but, like, you have to go back to the dentist more than once. And then the dental hygienist, got on the stand or whatever, and she said that she was appalled that he had 13 cavities. So those are two of the things that, like, really struck me, because I want to know, like, now, I don't want to say nowadays. I had to take this a different direction. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. E-I-E-I-O. Hey, welcome in. Thanks for checking out this web series. We're going to try and intertwine as many topics as we can in this thing because it's a long and sordid tale. It is long, sir, but why do you call it sad? I'm from Michigan. You can tell because I'm wearing a North Face. A lot of stuff happens here, and a lot of first things happen here. And a lot of it's anecdotal, like stuffed crust pizza or the first stop sign, or things like the first internet murder that sets forth, like decades of the precedent has been set. That's how you can meet people to kill them now, right? Let's make a video and put it online. But I'm wearing camo, and we're talking about the Oxford school shooter, so not to be fucked with. She's the first person in the history of the United States, right? I think it's important to say stuff like that. They're the first person in the United States to ever be charged for their child's crime involving a school shooting, involving a gun charge. And they did it because they had so many things. She said, don't do it. They bought him the gun. They all posted about it on Instagram and Facebook saying like, this is for him, and he had full and free access to it, right? They knew he was suffering like with mental health issues, with kind of isolation and just general teenage like malaise, and he was desperately asking for help. He also had a journal, and he said, tomorrow's the day, you know what I mean? Like, my parents won't get me any help, and then I'm gonna have to do it. And he, you know, explicitly says what he's gonna do in there. When I think for me, if I was a jury member, this one stands out just like so crazy to me, is that when it happened and it's on the news, it's on social media, people are, the kids who are out in the field now are texting their parents saying, I'm safe, whatever. And so then they're texting each other among like text groups, the teachers. Jennifer Crumbley, the mom, hears it on the news, gets the text, however she was notified. The dad gets the text, gets notified. They're going, not their first thing that she texts him, don't do it. The first thing that they both go to do is they go to check for the gun. They don't drive to the school. Now, even if your son was like a gang member and you know that he's a murderer, right? And you hear like, shoot him up or whatever, the first thing you would do would not be like, go see if your cool silver 45, you know what I mean, your gangster gun or whatever is in the holster. The first thing you're gonna do is go to them, be with them. That's your son, even if he is like the biggest killer of all time or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're going to him, right? Am I right? Like, you hear that there's a school shooting at your son's school. Even if you know that he is the shooter, first of all, that's why as a juror, I'm saying, okay, yeah, you obviously are responsible for this because of your reaction to it. You know what I mean? The leading up to it is one thing, but like your reaction is really bonkers to me. So they go home to look for the gun instead of going to the school to go get the kid and to see if maybe he's not the shooter, maybe he got shot, is he okay? So I'm laughing. It's a very serious subject, but also what I'm going to talk about is very serious too. So it's so hard, and this is what we have to do together, is if you're a model and you are forced to like sleep with people and do snow stuff, right? Right, and throw up, right? If you were forced to do all these crazy things as a model in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, right? And then now when a young model would say, I'm not going to X, Y, Z, and they're not doing any of that. I'm not going to lose weight. I'm definitely not going to have, you know what I mean, an issue like that. I'm not going to, right? Like all these things that were just par for the course, all to the extreme of, okay, so Naomi Campbell is in the room she hears a story about these new girls and they won't take their tops off, right? I mean, if you asked, like, you know what I mean? It's kind of going to be a half and half thing. Whereas before it would be, yeah, I'm 14, let's go. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's so hard for this group of people to acknowledge that they were, because acknowledging that is okay to have those type of boundaries, and everything doesn't have to be transactional like that, and you don't have to overstep what you're comfortable doing to like, that's how you're gonna, in order for Naomi to see that as okay for this younger person to do, she has to acknowledge that she was taken advantage of in some regard. Right. So for me to say, oh, yeah, okay, don't take your shirt. She shouldn't have to take her shirt off. Then it makes me go, but I did. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so hard. It's because I'm watching the Ethan Crumbley thing being like, bro, your room was messy. You know what I mean? So they weren't supposed to say anything about the affair in the trial. But Shannon Sharp sharpshooter Shannon Smith, the defense attorney, wild. She like accidentally brought it up. Well, not accidentally. She thought it up in her car listening to Taylor Swift on the way over, probably. She like asked a question about the affair, and then the prosecution stands up and was like, I thought we said that wasn't admissible. We weren't going to talk about any of that. And she's like, well, like she already proved her point. So go ahead and do it. But the mom was having affairs in Costco parking lots. And it's just like, what person with a single mom didn't have to go on the dates with them too? So you're like bribing the men. Oh, that's not normal. I mean, like, stay at home, watch yourself because your single mom's out on a date or whatever. Right? You know what I mean? And then it was like a big part. And look at how angry I am. I think the horses, where all this anger is coming from, is that the other main part of the trial too was like she was spending so much time with her horses at this horse barn. And I think she had two of them. And I'm real salty about that. You know what I mean? But, okay, hey, mom is allowed to go do what she's a NASCAR driver, whatever her mom's thing is that she likes to go and do. Cool. But the horse had mud foot, and I've never heard of any, I mean, we've got a little bit of experience, right? The horse had mud foot disease, something like that, and I've never heard of anything like that. And the stable lady, if you guys are watching the case, this stable lady, the lady who owns the barn, I think her on the witness stand was really a really good one to watch. But she called her and said, hey, Flapjack's got mudfoot, you know? And then she's like, oh, will you just give him some medicine? So obviously the horses, it has to play psychologically. I mean, subconsciously, the horses have to play into my level of anger for this woman. But the mother was having an affair. She was meeting in Costco parking lots. Like, I don't know. Same, right? Only I would have to fucking go with them. Okay, you know what I mean? Because then you're like more apt to like buy more stuff from the store or like do a washer and dryer because probably needs her clothes washed, right? Yeah, so it's just like as I was watching this, I just felt crazy. Wow, that's bad. You know, that like, oh, that is bad. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. That's bad. You know, but yeah, so he had 13 cavities and his room was messy. And so sometimes I wonder, like, if you're a hairdresser, if you could, like, comment below. If a kid would come in and have, like, super matted hair or something like that, I think, like, now it might be, like, somebody might call somebody, you know what I mean? If somebody comes in and is generally like caring and calls you and is like, hey, I have a tangle in my hair. She's been sick. She had chicken pox or whatever the thing is. Her hair is really, messed up. It's in one big mat. How much do you charge? How do we book it? Whatever. Versus somebody just coming in there like, give my kid a haircut. If a kid's hair was super tangled, I'm saying, would you feel like, oh, fuck, like, no, I kind of got to like watch the situation or like feel compelled to like call somebody or something? But no, like, nobody ever took me to a hairdresser, right? Nobody took me to Supercuts or something like that. You know, I don't know. If you were like a dentist, you have to go be getting services. Like if you're a shut-in with like a big rat's nest thing in the back of your head, you're probably not like getting exposed, obviously. Man, that's fucked up. So comment below if you're a hairdresser, if you ever have experienced anything like that. The other part that Michigan, we were trying to drive home, and more than one day of trial too, was objection, his only friend. Right? And then they're interviewing the mom, and then she's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, well, wasn't that his only friend? And then she was like, well, he had like friends at school too. And then they said, did they ever come over to the house? If you know, you know. If you have always been the person who's had one friend, right? Then you know it was so, so out of line for him to keep saying his only friend. Obviously, meaning to killer. You know what I mean? Cut me some slack. And then, if you know, you know, how many people grew up in houses, comment below, where no one was allowed inside? We like to pretend it wasn't that many of us, but I fucking bet it was a lot of us, right? Because that doesn't have to be like a social exclusionist. That can just be like, none of them fucking kids are coming in here. You know what I mean? So, I mean, saying that somebody only had one friend, like maybe it's like rural. There's only 3,500 people in the whole city, it's town anyway. Like one, he's got 10% of the friend population in here. So that was, you know, it's a lot for me to digest. That if I had me as a kid, well, no, that's not true because I wouldn't do that to me as a kid. But if I had a kid and I could be prosecuted for them having one friend, and then they were like, and he was in no activities, right? I'm like, okay, have you seen the price of baseball lately or whatever? But then she was like, no, it just was, he was in bowling. And then he was like, well, bowling is from September till whenever, like the bowling season at school. So like he is in one extracurricular activity too. And it was us, the state of Michigan, the prosecution be like, he has one friend. He doesn't do any activities from March till, you know, April or something like that. His room is messy. This kid's got 13 cavities. It's a lot to be confronted with. That's for sure. Watching that trial was a lot to be confronted with. So they went to the day of this, on the day of the actual, they were called in. The parents, the mother and the father were called in to school because he was exhibiting a little bit of behavior, right? And they wanted to, the parents are the best people to deal with that. If you are like a military dad and we're going to go home and we're going to do push-ups or we're going to go shopping because that's what we do, or we're going to just ignore it and go home and like coldly eat a sandwich on the couch, you know what I mean? Or whatever your family style is of whatever you're going to do for this behavior that isn't necessarily something we're going to discipline you over, but it's something that needs to be addressed. You're sad, you're acting out. It needs help. It needs to be addressed. You're asking for help as a child. So the parents came in, they called him in. It's really good to watch. It's terrible to watch this trial because it's the people that are there getting harassed by Sharon Smith. They lived through this shooting. One of them got shot, right? And they're up there like having to deal with her talking about Taylor Swift, singing her lungs out, you know, blasting the music and stuff, like saying we might all blush if we talk about the affair that I accidentally brought up that was inadmissible to the trial, and we didn't do our jury selection based on it. And it was in your benefit to keep it private. But they came in there and then they left. They went home. They said, we have to go back to work. And then I started to like look into it. Like, well, I want to know if they like really went back to work that day, right? Like if it was so important for them to like get back to work, like the one, well, Crumb Bum mom, like top mom, right? So Crumb Bum mom worked at she was like a marketing person for like a real estate holding company, and dude, her boss getting interrogated or whatever on the stand. They didn't have like a 9 to 5 set schedule. You know what I mean? That's the type of job where you are out and about. You're not sitting at your desk. You're out taking photos. Obviously, if it's a real estate marketing thing, she's taking photos or whatever, marketing in some way. You're not sitting at your desk. And then they asked her, they were like, sorry, they asked her boss, so have you ever, has she taken off I'm sure she's taken off for school things before. And he was like, nope, this is the first time I'm hearing of it. This is the first time she's taken off of work to go pick up her son early, pick up her son late. She dropped his lunch. She needs a new pair of shoes. Unless she's only been working here for 6 months, what mom do you know or you work with hasn't left the office at your super flexy ass job for your kid that's 15 years old or something, or younger? Whoa, you know what I mean? And then so like as the boss, I liked that because like it was corporate America on trial or whatever, and he was cool, but you could tell that like he kind of knew his answers could be like litigated later or something too. But just for like the 2 seconds for him to be like, yeah, she never took off work to go be with her kid. As a boss, like, so just, if you're pressuring people like that, there's all these external pressures. And then like, if you're a total nutbag, like a narcissist, right? So you have like all those 3 things working, like really, really bad stuff can happen. So as an employer, give somebody the grace to give them the opportunity to do that, because they might have these other 3 crazy things working against them anyway. And then if, like, you don't understand how stressful it is to take time off work. How about that? Like the reality of that, like that request for your vacation that's part of your compensation package. So a whole different beast, but it was kind of cool to see like him on trial, They didn't take him home. So like that meeting, they got them both in there. Her defense lawyer was really goofy. Like, well, they both came in. Do both parents usually come in? And then he was like, yeah, a lot of times both of the parents come in. Like she thought everyone, only a single mom or something. And it's like, yeah, they all come. She's such a trip. And then they left and they didn't take Ethan. And then later that day, he did what he did. Okay. I was in kindergarten and I would have to constantly be hanging out in the principal's office because they found out that I was walking to and from school by myself every day through a hole in the fence. So they would call my mom to come get me. Hey, and I would just hang out in the principal's office, right? And then we did that for another 3 days or something like that, And they thought, of course we scared her straight, right? To and from, both ways, That's why I never asked for help. So what is really weird about this whole thing, to me, this is one of the slower school responses. I don't hold any of the educators responsible, obviously, right? And even in listening to their testimony, there's a lot of people that would jump all over it and be like, they should have searched the book bag because, he was holding it, all that type of stuff. You know what? With the way stuff is, right? I can't blame any of the administrators or the educators or anything that were in that building for being like, you should have, come on, dude. If his own fucking mom, you know what I mean? So that's why you do have to walk around this planet, like, and treat people like their own fucking mom doesn't care about them. That's, I guess, the moral of this video. So the school had a really slow response. A slower response. I feel like the way that it was actually reported to us live time here seemed like, why aren't they, right? That coupled, with the police, and then inside of the building, right? Earlier that day, you had a chance to have the book bag that seemed heavy to you, that was in your hand already, and you handed it back to the student without checking or anything like that. And he had like drawings and he was watching like videos and stuff, but it's just like their argument for that was, that's the cultura around children, is violent movies, video games, drawing guns. It's nothing. The one thing that they said, her with her crazy, but the homecoming dresses. But they're like, it's nothing to see a gun drawn on like a math paper. Like, what? Okay, I'm laughing, but they're just saying we're holding on by dear wits. Police response is maybe a little bit slower than everyone wanted. The faculty's response seems like there were a lot of missed opportunities to kind of intervene in a nice, cordial, or like prevention type of way. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that word. Prevention type of way, right? But the state trying the mom, hell, I'm here for it. But also trying Ethan Crumbley as an adult. Now that to me, just as far as like, how can I be an adult yet they have responsibility of me at the same time, right? That seems really muddy. And then before we've even tried the father, they've already absolved the school district of any wrongdoing. What if the faculty that's already been subpoenaed for, Crumb Bum Dad's case, what if the dad has some information? What if somebody who is subpoenaed and gets up there and has to tell the truth under oath has information that completely, definitely implicates the school in some way, and that doesn't mean the school is not going to go to jail, right? It would be an opportunity to do the same thing that they're doing with these parents and using them as Mayan sacrifices to say, you guys got to fucking do something. You guys got to do something with these kids because they're up their school. So why already give full immunity to the school at this point? Where is the lesson in that? Before the dad's trial, where the principal could come out, a teacher could come out, a student could come out and say, you know what I mean? He opened the book bag and he saw the thing that was in there and he zipped it back up and said, go home or whatever. You know what I mean? Just like anything could happen. And this would be the only time that the information would be reliable because you're under oath, right? Like people would have to give their full account of what they saw that day, like witnesses, right? But we're already saying like, oh, they were fine. They're lucky, they've suffered enough or whatever. But like, so you could make the same argument about the parents. They've suffered enough, right? Like our kid did this. I wish he would have done this to us instead, is what her statement was. So that part to me is kind of a little less liberté than I guess I would like to see, because I would like to see it very legally imbalanced on both ends, where they aren't done being implicated until the Inquisition is over on this side of it. And I don't think that he should be tried as an adult, but also the parents be held accountable for it. But that's not me being a, gun advocate or anything like that. Let freedom ring. I think that definitely if you watch the trial, you would think that they need to acknowledge their son. And this is probably the only way that they're going to Nope, she's not going to do it now either. Somewhere in these text messages, I think it was to her boss. There's a lot of embarrassing texts just about her like making fun of her son, basically, and just like looking for like, look how weird he is, like look how what I have to deal with, you know. One of the texts said, "I failed as a mother," and I want to say like acknowledging that, whether you know she said it to Ethan or she really meant it or whatever, but just being able to say that. I bet a lot of people would not like to hear that because nobody wants that to be the truth and the reality. But it's pretty progressive that she was able to say that. There is more to the story. You guys ready for it? At high school, my car was probably broken or something. So it sat in the parking lot for over the weekend. Student's car is left here. They didn't go to class on Monday. They didn't go to class on Tuesday. They probably didn't go to class on Friday. It's the only car in the parking lot. So, did they call the police? Did they call my parents? Maybe. I don't think so. Did they ask me about it on Wednesday when I saw them? Hey, we were real worried about you. Really? Were you? Because people I worry about, I take action, right? If I'm actively worried about somebody. So, I'm glad times have changed at school. I did have to do, you know, we watched 9/11 on TV. Columbine happened. We did drills. Our school is so old that it has a tunnel that connected the middle school to the high school. So I never had to go down there. They would just take us outside for our drills. That's so fucking... Line us up. Line up. We didn't just line up. We didn't do those kind of drills. We just did like a 9/11 drill. What was it? It was like one. We only had to do one Columbine where they got us all outside. Man. And then so when I babysat one time in the year 2017 or something like that, I didn't know that they had those. I guess they must have told me when I got home, when I picked him up, you know, like, oh, we had a drill today, and an active shooter drill. Whoa, I had no idea. And so I did kind of like funly, loosely ask a couple of questions about it because it wasn't her, it was her little brother. And I think that was what fucking threw me off so much, is when I was like, yeah, whatever. And then she's like, he does them. And he was like, he could, I guess that maybe he was in first grade. He's so small. So small. I think he was in kindergarten. But we did one, and then we just lined up outside, even though we had an underground tube to go to. But guess what we did? Michigan enacted a law from the Michigan State. It's the safe gun storage law, and this law went into effect the day before Valentine's Day because that's the day that the shooting happened. But when I went to look up the Michigan State, you know, the date and stuff like that, it comes up like you're buying shit off of... It's gross. The sidebar, it has 3 tabs on the top, and it's like overview, survivors, and then what the fuck is the third tab? But video, here we go. And then it has like a sidebar, so it looks like the Google map, like local, like dog grooming place. Like it has all this, and then it has like 3 other tabs, like your shopping tabs and stuff open. It was gross. It was a really, really nasty, horrific layout for what I was looking up. Yeah, it had a whole other sidebar of a whole scroll here of, if you like that at Macy's, you'll probably like these. Unlimited scroll of other ones. You know, like people will find a way to get guns no matter what, so don't even bother putting any limitations or protections on them or whatever, because people will just find them anyway. But this gun safety law would really if you weren't a felon and then you had like an unlicensed, there you go, did they charge you with like an unlicensed firearm or something? But that's it. I don't want to get into this with you guys. I don't want to get into with you guys. I'm just trying to say, Jennifer Crumbley's a shitty. So if your mom was worser, that's my mom's word. If your mom was worser than Jennifer Crumbley, please contact me below. I'm now taking cases. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. But it could help. Could help emotionally. Good emotional advice. When the change of the guard is like stuff getting softer or stuff getting like more equitable, and you had to suffer, right? It's important to always look at that as a positive.